We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you.
Welcome back to I Be Determined. I'm your host, Mason Harvey, and I speak from the role of a patient, and I have Crohn's disease.
And I'm your other co-host, Michelle Harvey. I'm Mason's mom, and I speak from the role of a caregiver. Today's story is brought to you by Mason's Real Life.
Yippee!
So
it's gotta be bad when it can be turned into a story.
I know, it's fun, huh? Mason's always got a story.
Harry Potter.
We kind of had mentioned this, last episode, because we were dealing with some stuff, Calprotectin results and everything. So we had a meeting with his gastroenterologist, which that in itself
was a very fun day.
It was crazy. It was like one of the first days. We had beautiful weather here, and then suddenly we had a little bit of rain, and wasn't that much. And then you would think we were struck by a hurricane. Our power went out. There was SDG&E trucks everywhere, cable trucks, and a branch fell. And
it wasn't even the bad part of the storm.
It was a small.
It was a small part of it. The second part of the storm happened, which was the bad one, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
But the first part of the storm, which was just a little bit of drizzle, and the wind was strong, but not too bad.
Not that bad.
There's 40 SDG&E trucks everywhere.
Originally, so what happened is that week we had to go down to Rady's on a Tuesday for Mason's infusion.
Yep.
And
day before.
Yeah, I believe, was that the one that was kind of wild? There was a high-speed chase. So, we live in San Diego County, and so it's never a dull moment out here. But on this particular day, I'm sorry, we're going way back. We'll promise it all.
It's entertaining, right?
Right. I feel like it's more entertaining than the Calprotectin we're going to be talking about in a minute, but which is also valuable information.
Yes, it is.
So anyways, the day before, we sat in traffic. A car had gone, someone stole something, went the wrong way in one direction. We drove by it when they had been pulled over.
There was about 23 police cars.
Yeah, they escaped.
Truck, and they somehow escaped from 23 police
And somehow we were thankfully ahead of that, because they ended up going the wrong way on the side we were on, and traffic was shut down for 2 hours. Luckily, Mason was in the infusion center during that time, so we missed all of it, and we were able to come home. But the drive down there, there was a few delays. The time before that was we were half an hour late to his appointment, because it took almost 2 hours to get from where we live to the hospital, and normally it's 45 minutes.
I don't know why that got escalated.
Crazy. Yeah,
we decided to do.
We tried to do telehealth because we were there the day before for his infusion at Rady's, and then we had to go back the next day to meet with his doctor. And so we're like, "Hey, could you do telehealth instead?"
Because it's hard to be on time when you're driving on. There's a 2-hour delay, or
a 40-minute appointment turns into 4 hours.
Yeah,
really, and that's half the day.
And so we're like, let's do telehealth, because it will take up, only a few, an hour of the day, and we'll be on time, right?
Yeah. And I'm it'll be cool, because at the same time we were having Jelly Bean, our jumping spider, delivered overnighted by FedEx.
To be home for that.
And they said it was going to be there before noon. And so we were like, okay, it's perfect, because his appointment was at 10:30. So we're like, we'll have the appointment, and then we'll be here for if Jelly Bean arrives, so that she's not outside, because that can happen. And that was
raining. It was cold, so Jelly Bean shouldn't be outside. No.
And that was the morning we woke up with no power.
Yeah.
And we're like,
the fan. There's just that feeling when you wake up and the fan isn't moving, and you're like,
okay. It was early. And so we're like, okay, no issues. It should be on. They
said it would be back on it in 2 hours.
But it went off just before 6 a.m. Yeah. And my husband checked and said it was supposed to be on at 7. And I was like, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And so then at 7 o'clock, they said it would be on by 10. And
close to the appointment, huh?
Yeah. And we ended up, we're like, well, if it's not on by 9:45, we have to have an alternate plan because we have to log in for, if you've done telehealth, you have to log in like 20 minutes before and you meet with the nurse and all that. And so we ended up driving to my parents' house
Yep.
to have a telehealth meeting with his doctor because also fun fact, like our phones don't work well without the Wi-Fi. And so that really wasn't a
Yeah.
great option either.
Oh yeah, and also to make it more fun, so we had to go to Grandma and Grandpa's house to use the Wi-Fi, which means we
Mhm.
couldn't be home for Jelly Bean. But thankfully, that worked out to where
Yeah, as
we
soon
were
as we
home
got
as soon as we
home,
got home. Jelly
she
Bean was
arrived.
delivered, so that
Yeah.
was okay. But to make matters a whole lot worse, I also had a midterm due that
Yes.
day, and it wasn't something where I was like, "Oh my God, this is because I procrastinated
No.
that I have a midterm to
The
do
teacher
today."
didn't release
What?
it
But the thing
until
is,
day.
that midterm was locked. You couldn't do it
Yeah.
until that day, and it was due that day. And so it wasn't even something I was like, well, I procrastinated, but it's like, oh my God, the power is out, and now I have to do the towel
Yeah.
house. We have to get the spider, the power is out, and we have to do this
Yeah.
midterm.
So it was supposed to be an ideal like stress-free day because we'd set it all up so it'd be like, oh, this will be so great. He can get his midterm done. We don't have to drive down to Rady's. We'll get the spider. So all these things were just derailed by somebody's palm frond that fell on
And yeah,
the
because that
line.
one palm frond fell on the lines
Yeah.
when we're driving back, all the palm trees are being cut down for
Yeah.
that.
They
I
decided to cut
was
them
really
off.
surprised. I thought it was actually a eucalyptus tree
Yeah, that
that
was gonna, because that's happened before over here. But anyways, so that was the start to so this was an important meeting. So
very important meeting.
we were all like it just completely messed everything up. And so luckily we were able to still meet with this GI. And
Riveting story.
yes, and this is leading to why we're talking about Calprotectin today. That's what we're going to talk
Mhm.
about because a lot of you, if you are just tuning in, you're probably like, why are they talking about themselves?
Mhm.
And it's because we're trying
We're
to make
really
it
confused. Yeah,
interesting.
we're
I
trying
was
to.
like, we can't just launch into like this
So
is
here's
what
how
Calprotectin
scientific
is.
Calprotectin goes.
Right.
It's
Like,
kind of boring, but
sit tight because I'm sure a lot of you, I mean, just like us, it's like life is going along and then all of a sudden, something happens when it's Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. And
roller
so
coaster.
we thought, let's use his real life example. So calprotectin is something probably a lot of you listening, if you have this disease, have heard of. And some of you without it may have also had this test because it's also done for other reasons too. And some of you might be going, hey, what is a calprotectin test? And
Well,
so we're not going to go into too much detail.
yeah,
Because
too
it's,
much detail. For
I
our
know,
own sake.
yeah, I mean, I know there's some people with disease will have no problem telling you exactly what it is. And other people listening might be like uncomfortable with us sharing like their business like that on, a
Yeah,
podcast.
it's probably not good.
So,
Time when you're driving to work and you hear
yeah,
someone, when
yeah,
so people are driving to work and they're listening to us as a podcast in their car, whatever they're doing, and they're like,
yeah,
oh, I didn't want to hear that today.
yeah.
Well,
And I try to be sensitive to Mason too because this is like not fun stuff to talk about, but it's real
it's
life.
entertaining.
But so basically a calprotectin test. So it measures a protein, which is calprotectin that is found in your stool.
Mhm.
And it will help you measure inflammation in the intestines.
Yep.
And so that's basically it. So you basically get a sample, send it off to a lab where I always think, wow, that must be a great place to work.
Oh,
Think of all, I hope they are paid really well for what they do. I think it's usually Prometheus Laboratories, which phenomenal company. We've actually we've met people from the on the
Very
executive
good
team. It's a phenomenal company, but those people that get to do these labs, you're wonderful people out there.
Mhm.
Somebody's got to do it. And so it's much appreciated. They measure these proteins, these levels, and then they send the results back to the doctor. And then the doctor makes a determination like, okay, is this a normal level?
Yeah. Or is this oh, it's going somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, like what's going on?
Mhm.
Some people will have like calprotectin, and I believe it is. I don't have the exact number up, but on your rating chart, anything like under 50, they consider like normal.
Okay.
Because there could be other reasons why it could be elevated temporarily or things happen.
Yeah.
So there's like a normal level, but when
Say you eat something, that you just don't agree with.
as your inflammation increases, this number typically will
Hmm.
increase. And so this is where, like, I'm going to throw this out there for Mason right now because this is where his story, this is where for us, this is the first time calprotectin has been weird because Mason was diagnosed almost 6 years ago. So we're like not like
We're
new
not too
to
new.
this,
I mean, obviously, 6 years
but it always feels
of
like
human
it.
history is the blink of
No,
an eye.
but it sure still, I mean, I'm sure all of you with this disease know you always have something to learn. And
Yeah.
so for Mason, the weird thing was, it's like the doctor was like, hey, let's just do our routine. They like to monitor it. Let's just
Hmm.
do our routine calprotectin labs. He wasn't there. He's
Yeah.
asymptomatic. He's doing phenomenal. And actually his like all of his blood inflammatory markers are excellent, showing no inflammation. So
Good.
everything's been great. So we're like, yeah, we'll go ahead and go get that. And it was elevated.
Yep.
And that which was we're like, okay,
Which is
so
good.
so the first time she did this was back, I think, well, okay, so we do these several times a year. And but one in September had gone up to around 200, which isn't like historically for
No.
people with IBD.
Compared to the normal 50,
Right. So
that's
like Mason's been
that's
in
a
the
little bit
thousands,
high.
just like several of you. When you're in a
Mhm.
flare, it's like thousands. So we
Which
were like,
obviously is not good.
so for us, we're like 200. Oh, that's not too bad,
Yeah,
right?
too
And his
bad.
doctor's like, well, that's a little elevated.
Mhm.
And then so she's like, let's repeat the test. We did that. So we did it a couple months later, and now it was like
100.
300 and something. Mason's still feeling great.
Which is
And
really
so,
weird because usually
mhm,
when I'm not saying I'm going into a flare, but usually when I'm going into a flare or experiencing some sort of inflammation, the first thing we notice before actual markers like that is my appetite
mhm.
is lost. I don't feel
Yeah.
hungry, and which is really interesting. This time I haven't noticed a difference at all
Because in the
or any
past,
symptoms.
it has correlated.
Hmm.
And it made sense when the like
Oh, well, that makes sense. It is
typically,
sleep
like the
problems.
order for us actually would be, hey, to alert his doctor, he's having this symptom.
Yeah,
They
that
would
becomes
test
next.
and then, kind of confirm, like, okay, he's going into a flare. So this is the first time that the calprotectin picked up
It's
something
yeah,
before Mason
yeah.
has.
It's
So
really interesting.
and we have some answers for why that happens because I know a lot of you out there listening too get these calprotectin levels and they're like super high, or they're, you're not, you're say you're feeling really gross and terrible
Hmm.
and the calprotectin's normal,
Hey,
but
you're doing great.
yeah, and then
Huh?
sometimes you're feeling phenomenal and your
Just,
calprotectin is
hey, you're doing
saying,
awful.
no, you're
Hmm.
you're not. So there's this kind of contradiction of test results and what you're sometimes feeling. So
Hmm.
that's always interesting, but it is a really good tool that it also helps differentiate between IBS and IBD. So that's another thing it's kind of used for. And sometimes they will combine it with other stool tests to determine if the symptoms could be something else, which is
Yes.
actually what we just did with Mason because the doctor, when we got that next result, when it was elevated again, she's like, it's still elevated.
Hmm.
And so we're like, can we redo it? Because Mason had been sick
So
over,
that could have
and we were
possibly
like,
affected.
maybe that was it. We're like trying, because we're like, I don't know.
I mean, if you remember our last episode when we're talking about that cool book,
Mm-hmm.
there was a part where we mentioned that being sick can cause inflammation.
Mm-hmm. Because it's a
Hmm.
response by your body, and so sometimes that can trigger things. But that's not the
Yeah.
case for Mason. So what they did though when they ran that next test is they did a full parasite panel. It was like 20 different lab tests that they did on this. So that's a nice thing also with this test, non-invasive. They can get other samples too. So it's always good to have a parasite check to have them look and see if it could be like an E. coli, C. coli, like that kind of thing, and kind of cover all your bases. So once they cleared Mason of everything, said, nope, all this looks excellent.
The thing is, like, you don't want to get a yes from that, but at the same
Right.
time, when you get a no, you're like, well, no, what is it?
Right,
What
right.
is the problem
So
now?
it's like the problem still points to
No.
inflammation. Doctors will use this to help monitor IBD. So that's what we've been doing with Mason. So let me just tell you really quick. We'll just give you it's like the simplified version of the science version, and it in my own words. So hopefully it's accurate.
So, what is
Um,
the explanation for this
yeah.
aspect?
So real quick, calprotectin is a protein that's released by the neutrophils. And so when you have that intestinal inflammation or the gut, the neutrophils will kind of migrate into that mucosal lining. When they do that, this creates an immune response that creates inflammation.
Hmm.
And again, I could have this a little mixed up, but at the most part, so the higher the neutrophil activity, basically, the higher your calprotectin. So that's why
Okay.
they are picking up the activity here of there is something going on. So it's like, okay, that's legit. It's
Mhm.
not picking up, it's picking up something that is a result of inflammation. And so that's important to know. Something else. So this is again goes back to with Mason, a good lesson for all of you. And I think this is a question I hear a lot is why is the number sometimes really high and sometimes why is it slightly
Yeah,
elevated?
why?
Like in Mason's case, why in the past has he been
Symptomatic
symptomatic
every time it's
every
occurred.
time and then we do the calprotectin and
It
it's
says,
and it's
yeah.
elevated and sometimes it's significantly elevated.
Hmm.
So there's a reason for that. And this was one of the things his doctor kind of led us to is why I knew to look for this because his doctor explained this. When disease or the inflammation is in the larger intestine
Hmm.
in the large
Which is
intestine
interesting.
like the colon and historically for Mason that was where he had the most he had
Inflammation.
that so he had it in his esophagus, in his stomach, in his small intestine, and in his large intestine, which is
Might
the
as well
colon.
have it in my teeth.
He had it before basically everywhere. So his calprotectin could, we never thought about disease location because the number was just high and we're like, oh, it just picks it up. But why it was always picking up? Because when he was very active, having the disease very active in his colon, usually your calprotectin numbers are usually very high with that location.
Yeah,
So it does have to do
interesting.
with disease location and so this is the explanation it gave me. So because
All right.
stools form in the colon, inflammation there directly sheds neutrophils, which in
Mm.
turn is calprotectin, into the stool. So that makes it a very reliable test. Typically for Mason, that was where it was. But in the last time we had him scoped, it was clearing up and he was doing a lot better. And so that could be why this time he's not symptomatic because the typical symptoms associated with the large intestine
Hmm.
being inflamed
Yeah, that's not the
is not the
problem.
problem.
Okay.
And we didn't think about this. So his doctor said, I think Mason's inflammation could be in the small intestine. And that's why these results are lower. And I was kind of like, okay, it's
That makes
higher up in the
sense.
system.
Yeah.
But, so we're like, okay,
How,
this.
well, how does that work? What's the difference?
Hmm,
Obviously, different areas completely, but
right. But it makes sense too because you're going to have different symptoms if the inflammation's in your small intestine than
yes,
in the large intestine. So we're like, oh, okay.
it's further up the
So
track.
that's why Mason is still feeling so
Mhm.
good. He's
Yeah.
not noticing anything. So looking it up, it says when the disease is located in the small intestine, your calprotectin numbers might be lower than expected or only mildly elevated. The reason for that is it says the test becomes a little less sensitive depending on that location. And when it is in the small intestine, the inflammatory proteins have further to travel
Mm.
before stool formation. Dilution is said and breakdown may occur during that. And then your stool consistency in the transit time says can affect the concentration. So that could be why he is showing these mild elevation levels that are consistently
Yeah, raising.
getting a little higher,
Hmm.
but he's feeling good.
Now, the only weird thing is like how obviously there's going to be a reason.
Hmm.
But even though it's still far up, there's still inflammation.
Hmm.
How come I'm still not, my obviously things like going to the bathroom more often aren't gonna be a problem as much when it's higher up. Appetite wise, that
Hmm.
symptom, because that's usually the first one I notice. I wonder why that still isn't being affected.
It might just be small amounts,
Maybe.
like she said, we don't know the size of the inflammation yet. It could just be a small area, and that's why you're not feeling pain or you're not feeling the other issues or your appetite, because your appetite is great.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no
I think
issues.
a good way to explain it would be way the doctors react to it would be like the fire department,
Mm-hmm.
and inflammation would be a fire. Currently, it is a candle. And nobody is noticing that it is there
Right.
because there's no smoke and there's no damage that it is causing. But a piece of paper has fallen onto it and it is spreading to the table. The fire is slowly growing, but nobody is seeing the smoke because it's not big enough yet.
Right.
And there's no symptoms. It's only causing damage internally and nobody really notices it. Once the fire gets big enough, that's when the fire department responds because there's smoke, there's damage, and it's visible.
So it's finally
So it's
noticeable,
finally
right?
visible.
And
That's
to do something.
I think that's a good way
And
to
and they're trying to get to it before it is a big
explain.
fire. That is
Yep.
exactly the
And that's
issue.
why they're
And
doing
some
stuff.
of you may have symptoms, though, I mean, everyone's different. So Mason might be unique in this own his own case here, and some of you may have
Yeah, yeah,
symptoms when you have something, and so this is again not a blanket statement like all of you are going to be like Mason.
no.
Not at all. This
Usually
is
with this disease is
yeah,
different.
but the calprotectin is something more uniform that they use for everybody. But we're talking we're applying it towards his own because this is a unique situation for us. We
Yeah, we
haven't been
haven't
here
experienced it.
before.
Yeah.
We're gonna come back to the recommendations too at the end. I want to
Okay.
talk about a few more things about calprotectin because this really is about calprotectin here. And so we're gonna come back to we're gonna wrap up and explain the end and where it's going, but we'll get there. So kind of like we mentioned, it's not just one test. If you
Mhm.
have one spike, then it's important to do another test. What they're looking for, like his doctor said, the key word was trend. That can also catch if you have any false test results, or something else that had just caused it to go up. And so looking it up on an online search, so it said, like, according to the search we found on Google, a calprotectin score of 100 to 150, your relapse risk is low. So it's
Mhm.
still mildly elevated, but you have a
It's not
lower.
a big
Right.
problem.
So they would keep an eye on it, right? And so many, it says with that, do not flare, but about 40 to 60% will relapse within 12 months. But again, not just one, we're not just looking at one score, guys.
No.
It's keeping an eye. So don't panic, if you get, I don't want anyone to be like, oh no. And then when you start getting persistent score of maybe 150 to 200, your relapse risk becomes significant. The risk
Mhm.
increases to 50 to 70% within 6 to 12 months. You could
Okay.
relapse. And then when you get a score of 250 to 300, there is an increased likelihood of flare within a month. The risk becomes 70 to 90%.
Getting awfully close to 100% right. It goes up to 400. Well, I think
right.
that's 100%.
Kind of what we're talking about. We're not talking about where you're going in there and you do have like a score of 3,000, which happens. And that is, you're
That is
usually flaring,
yeah.
usually feeling, we're talking about what we're kind of
I
talking
think
about here.
I think
Go ahead.
I think if somebody has a score of 3,000, they are for sure experiencing the effects of the disease. It's
Right.
not, oh, there might be something wrong.
Right.
There was
Even if
definitely
you're having
something
some symptom, even in like the 1,000, 1,800,
Yeah.
1,000, you're going to be having something. But the key
Mhm.
thing that we're talking about the calprotectin today is using it as a way to study you before you relapse. And
Mhm.
and so that is the main thing is they're trying to figure out ways to not have to do invasive procedures like always do scopes. They want to do something like these tests where they can say, hey, we're looking at this trend.
Mhm.
So that is why these are not necessarily for those of you with IBD. Some of you are like 300. That is a fantastic score.
Yeah.
Like,
Nice,
and so, but the thing that they're looking at someone like Mason who is in remission, they're looking at someone who's like in remission and suddenly these numbers start to slowly
Yeah.
creep up. And that's what's been happening with
The
Mason.
normal, what is the base value? What's normal for that person,
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're kind of looking for. Is it
Especially,
elevating compared to what is normal for them?
especially with IBD.
Yeah.
That's why these results, and it's important to have these tests because then your doctor can say, well, you know what, your baseline, we've done scopes, everything looked great. You just have a higher calprotectin. And
Mhm.
so it's important to do, I guess what I'm saying is like, if you're someone out there who's like, I cured this disease by dieting differently, and you're thinking you're feeling okay, it may not be okay.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's important to still, if you're doing alternative methods for treatments, it's still important to have tests because a doctor can track and say, based on like with Mason, based on his normal,
Mhm.
these are signs. This is a weird trend
It's
for
very
him.
interesting. It's an invisible disease, and it can even be invisible to the person who has it
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
Very interesting.
So that's why we wanted to talk about it because we thought it's something that we were kind of unaware would happen with him because he's always been so symptomatic, like always,
I
like.
think if it does happen, it's going to hit like a train,
Mm.
but this time it's just a
Like I usually pick up on it because I'll be like, Mason, you didn't eat as much tonight. And it's like usually when that and then it's other things start to follow. And so that's not the case here at all. What they're trying to do is just basically take your own, like Mason said, your own baseline
Yeah. Are you
for
normally a
trends.
candle or are you a campfire?
Right. What
Are you,
is your
are
normal?
you a candle turning into a house fire or a campfire turning
Yeah.
into a forest fire? What is the baseline?
And it said that an elevated calprotectin, it didn't say which level, but it can precede your symptoms by about 2 to 3 months. So that's
Okay.
why typically they try to catch it and do a trend. So for Mason, what they would like to do now is there's a couple things is to do MRI and
And you,
scopes.
do you know what I would like to do?
None of them.
Yeah.
Right. And so our hospital still does not have an ultrasound machine to kind of look at these things. And so our options were, MRI or scopes. His doctors had hesitant to do scopes because
Mhm.
Mason typically will flare. So we're in this like
Yeah.
weird window where Mason feels great. Do we risk doing a test that's going to maybe
Yeah.
say, hey, this elevated Calpro is nothing. It's just Mason's just whatever. And
And
then he flares
yeah.
because he had the scopes.
And you're called, it's like, oh no.
Right.
And there's other things to weigh too, because if the scopes have a chance to cause a flare, why would anyone ever choose scopes over the MRI?
Well,
But here's
because
the reason is
mhm,
the scopes are more accurate than MRI, and they can
right.
see more with it. And so
And you
obviously,
can get
yeah, you
biopsies.
can get biopsies, which are really good. The MRIs, no, they are procedures and a half. They're not easy.
It's not his
Uh,
favorite thing. He's had
yeah.
several. Yeah, it's not his favorite.
But the thing is, if you take the MRI and they still can't find what they're looking for, they say, well, we didn't see what we wanted to
Mhm.
see. Let's look a little bit further with scopes. So now you're weighing the risk between should I get an MRI because that might be it, and they might be like, oh, we just have to do this, this, and this.
But
Or
then,
what if you get the MRI and you're like, well, that didn't do what we want. Now you have to get scopes. So now you have to take two. So in
yeah,
theory, it would be the safer call to just say, let's do scopes and just do it once, right?
yeah,
So that's the part that you have to weigh in
right.
during
And
this
talk with your
situation.
doctor
Talk to your
about.
doctor, what do they think is best for
But
you?
Mason was really good about kind of like coming up with a solution with her. And we really try to do that. And I encourage you to do that with your kids too, to allow them to be part of the decision process, especially depending on age.
Mhm.
Mason's age now, he's going to be taking over soon to do his, be his own healthcare advocate here. And I, of course, will always be there for him. But once he reaches adulthood, it's different than
Yeah.
pediatrics. And so
You have to advocate for yourself.
hmm and Mason's very good at that. And so he brought it up with the doctor and said, "Is can we wait to do these tests
Mhm.
till I'm done with my college semester?"
That way I
Because
don't have to deal with two problems at once,
right.
right?
And because he's like, I feel, and so she said, okay, based on your labs, based on how you're feeling, and she's like, technically this is okay. If anything changes, it's different. And so we agreed on they're going to do two things, and we do these in about 2 weeks. So the first thing I do is check his Stellara
Mhm.
levels to see if there's a chance that
Which means yippee blood draws.
yeah, so he's gonna do that. So it's a blood test that you take right before you go and get your Stellara injection. So that way
Mhm.
it can tell what levels are in your system. We're gonna do that to see if that's a potential cause of what's
Low
going on.
levels, is that potentially? Because that could also just, solve it right there.
Right.
And then you could surpass both MRI
Right.
and scopes, which
So his
isn't
doctor's like,
true.
maybe because that might warrant a biologic switch, which is a whole nother topic.
But that's another problem.
That's a whole nother thing.
So
But
you're avoiding the MRI and scopes, but now you
yeah,
have a whole other problem.
right now, so what we try to do though is take everything like one. We're not worried. We should be wearing shirts that say one wave at a time.
Wearing Shelby.
Yeah, it's
Shelby
not this.
Cobra.
Yeah, I was like, none of us wore those shirts, but we have shirts that say like one wave at a time on them because really focus on one thing. And
Yeah.
so our focus right now is like, okay, let's get Mason through college and then get this test done to see what his levels are with the Stellara. Second thing they're going to do is monitor every 4 weeks a CalPro. And so if this number starts to increase significantly, we're going to talk and maybe do those tests earlier. If it kind of stays where it's at and it's not increasing and it's kind of holding on, then we'll wait to do those tests till after this semester is over for him.
Very fun.
So that's where it's at. It's a bummer because he was in lab remission and she said he's no longer in remission with that. And it's frustrating because he's been there for so long and he's felt so good.
I'm still sitting here going, I feel good.
Everything is great. His joint pain, I mean,
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I haven't felt
yeah,
that pain
like
yet.
nothing. And so it just feels frustrating, I guess is the word. This whole disease is frustrating. It's just like trying to figure out what's the best plan of attack for Mason's mental health and his physical health. And I'm so thankful he has a doctor that is looking at the whole picture and willing to do so many things. It's not like, well, come back in 6 months. I'm too busy for you. It's like, no, she's like, my chart me, talk to me, keep in touch. And so that's what we do. And she's always responsive. We do. We're very
And
fortunate.
we will find.
So that's our next thing is this is where we're in a fun mess because Mason's override to keep him on Stellara lasts until the end of April. And so
Hey,
basically like right now we're supposed to start fighting to keep him on Stellara instead of going to a biosimilar because a biosimilar could also be not a good thing for him right now.
yeah.
And
It also rocked the boat.
yes. And so we're not sure. Maybe the boat's already kind of messed up and
Rocked, yeah.
sinking. You know, maybe there's a small hole. And
Welcome to the Titanic.
Right.
All dooms.
so the other thing to contemplate is, we're going to start to battle. Do we instead battle to switch him to something that's more effective or battle to keep him on something that is not as effective? So having this test with the Stellara is going to be a big help for us. So we know which battle we're fighting.
This could have happened at any time of the year, but
Yeah.
it had to be this time. And now it's
Yeah.
like, well, are we going to fight or are we going to,
Yeah.
what are
What
we
a weird
doing?
timing.
So
So
very
we'll find out because either way, I know if I think the choice it would be like Skyrizi if he was to that was what was discussed if we're to switch, and I know that is not yet approved for pediatric use, and just like everything else,
Princess is gonna be like, hey, guess what?
right away, we already know what they're gonna say, and so then and Mason's also on dual biologics, so we know there's we just expect there's going to be a fight. If not,
wow, that'd be amazing.
but we're usually prepared, and so is the doctor because we know that
Just give us a break.
everybody
please.
out there knows there's always a first rejection, then you appeal, and they usually still are like, and then you do a second level appeal, and then hopefully at that point they're like, okay, we believe you. His doctor's right,
But if they're bluffing, they're gonna be like,
and then they have then we would go to a peer-to-peer where the doctor tries to but that's for if we want to do Skyrizi. We follow a whole different path if we want to stay on Stellara. That is a whole different kind of fight.
Fun path.
Yeah. So that's it for now. That's where we're at. And that's kind of explaining to you guys a little bit more about Calprotectin and why some of these numbers may vary and kind of what it is. But it's a really accurate test and it's really helpful in replacing always having something invasive like scopes, so usually a good indicator.
Yep.
But
usually get indicator.
Yeah. So that's it for today. Short and sweet, except for our long story in the beginning.
Well, that part was fun for them. It was like your parents read you a story before bedtime.
Oh yeah. So before I gave them like the boring information, put them to sleep. Right.
Like, hey, something
Yeah.
interesting.
But I think this for a lot of you, Calprotectin, it's like a simple way to explain it, kind of what it does and what the numbers are, why it's affected by location, things like that. There's obviously way more to do with Calprotectin.
Yeah, it's just a simpler.
Yeah, we just want to
not simple, but easier explanation.
Right. Something that you guys could just listen to and have a better grasp of what it is.
What are these words?
Yeah. And also for kids not to be afraid of it. It's not one more poke. Like a lot of kids are like, oh, another lab. But it's one of the labs. It's not invasive or anything like that.
I mean,
so
a blood draw that we have to.
Yeah, you've gotten so used to it. It's not.
I don't like anything that has to do with the needle going anywhere near my veins. The infusion lasts 2 hours sometimes, 1 hour and 30 minutes. This one is only going to take a minute.
Yeah, and it's not an IV. It's a different
IV.
needle.
It's just, and it's going to be short too, so it's not going to be that bad.
Yeah, right? Not fun, but also not terrible.
Silver lining, right?
Yeah.
When the world is so dark, you have to look for the lights at the end of the tunnel and say, well, that's the good part of it, right?
Yeah. So that's where we're at. We'll keep you guys updated. I don't think by the time we record the next one we'll have results from anything. Hopefully
we'll show them the new jumping spider.
Yes, next time. Because I'm like, we don't need to jump into another topic. Jump. Yeah, see?
You have to edit one when you say that.
I know. Our little spiders. Felix is still molting. So he's
well, actually,
he molted.
He molted, which is really good.
Yeah, he's hiding.
He's not missing any legs, which can happen.
He's just still in.
But he's still hiding because the exoskeleton has to get stronger.
Yeah, so maybe next time we'll be able to show you both spiders because right now. Yeah. So anyways,
still being shot.
You guys can watch us and see what's going on in our lives on Instagram at Team IB Determined.
Wow,
and
cameras everywhere?
Yeah, no, just what I post.
Live stream, but
just what I post. But you guys can join us on there and you can follow our adventures and
Jumping Spider Adventures.
Jumping Spider Adventures, all that.
Protecting Adventure.
T might be determined. So you can listen to us on any stations like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. I got it right. I had
Yeah,
just
get it
messed it
done.
up. Yeah.
Okay.
I never get that wrong.
Just a little jump right there.
Yeah. But you guys can listen to us on any of those or at the link you can look and see where it's available. And because you might be watching us and want to listen to us in your car.
I
But
assume if you're already listening to us, I don't know if
yeah,
you
but they
even
might be
know,
watching on
maybe
YouTube.
like, hey, I want to know how other quality sounds,
Yeah.
So you might do that. But if you want to watch us, go to YouTube. There's also YouTube podcasts, but those aren't so new anymore. There's also YouTube videos, which are what you're on YouTube for.
Yep.
So make sure to watch us. And if you are on YouTube, make sure to give us a like and subscribe. And if you want to be notified every time we post a new video, make sure to hit that bell icon.
I think that's it.
No, leave comments. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Leave happy comments.
Yeah.
Don't bring negativity here, please.
Because I feel like if I know not a lot of people are going to talk about it, but I feel like if we get like a range of Calprotectin scores and symptoms and non-symptoms. It is so interesting. And so I think that's,
What I mean by don't bring negativities here. You can bring negative lab results here.
Right.
But
right.
don't be like, this is
Like
a cringe
rude.
video. This is a cringe video.
Yeah, like being
don't
rude.
Be rage baiters. No.
So
positivity and more
yeah.
kindness in this world.
Yeah. We're going to go eat lunch.
Yeah, we're going to eat lunch because we're both hungry.
Yes. So we're going to go do that. And you guys have a good rest of your morning, day,
evening, late night,
lunch.
lunch.
Whatever it is. And
breakfast.
we'll be back here. What?
They might be having a Calprotectin day.
Okay.
Yeah, make sure they have
True.
a good day.
True.
Reward yourself.
Yes. Yes. So we will see you guys back here in 2 weeks on the next episode.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a good day.
Bye.
We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to play something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.